Okay, my name is Matt Vangrood. I am a student through NDSCS, Dr. Nate Weber's Anatomy and Physiology 220 lab, and this is my brain dissection. I apologize for the bad video quality. It's just the best I can do, unfortunately. So what we have here is a mammalian brain, and the big part here is the cerebrum, which is made up of four lobes. The frontal lobe, which is largely in charge of motor skills, uh, gross and fine. An example of gross motor skills is like moving your arm or your leg, and fine motor skills would be something more intricate like handwriting, things like that. Dorsally to the frontal lobe, we have the parietal lobe, which is largely in charge of sensory information. It receives a lot of sensory information. Touch, things like that. Here, inferiorly to the parietal lobe, we have the temporal lobe, which is largely responsible for interpreting auditory information. And then dorsally to the whole thing, we have the occipital lobe, which is responsible for interpreting visual information. So if you get hit on the back of the head or something, you see stars, whatever, that's because this occipital lobe is being affected by that blow. Back here, we have the cerebellum, which is largely in charge of muscle coordination. So things like walking or balance, that is all affected through here. Okay. And then on the ventral side, we have several structures. We've got the brainstem and the spinal cord here. Spinal cord is right down here, leading up to the brainstem, which is the medulla and the pons. Now, the medulla is this first lump here, and that is largely in charge of maintaining your heart rate, your blood pressure, things of that nature. And then we have the pons right here. It's that second bump, and that is largely in charge of communication through the cerebrum and the lower part of the brain through several groups of nerves, like the trigeminal nerve is in there, and there's another one that I just can't recall right now, but they're both through there. And other nerves as well. I think there's a series of 4 nerves that go through there. Here we have what is called the the optic chiasma or optic chasm, and that is largely responsible for the crossover between the right optic nerve and the left optic nerve. And then up here, I do believe up here is the olfactory bulb, which is responsible for smelling and being able to discern particular smells from one another. Okay, and then we cut through the brain through the corpus callosum, which is this structure right here. And that is largely responsible for connecting, not just connecting, it's a group of nervous tissue that connects the left and the right hemispheres, but also allows them to communicate with each other. So that's the corpus callosum. Here we have the lateral ventricles, 1 and 2, but together they're just called the lateral ventricles. I tried cleaning out the septum lucidum as much as I could, but I didn't want to damage any of the internal structure there. So as a result, it doesn't look exactly like it does in the pictures, but I did the best I could. And up top, I believe, is going to, of all the ventricles, is what is called the choroid plexus, which is responsible for making cerebral spinal fluid. So here's a lateral ventricle. Here's the third ventricle right here. And way down here is the fourth ventricle. And the third and the fourth ventricle are connected through this cerebral aqueduct right in there. Also, what we have is the diacephanon, which is made up of the thalamus and the hypothalamus. The thalamus is a sensory relay center. It determines where certain senses are going to in the brain. Below that is the hypothalamus, which is responsible for maintaining the body's homeostasis. So like your body temperature would be regulated through the hypothalamus. And we're going to switch over to this one because I think it's a little bit better. Down here, we have the hypophyses, or the pituitary gland. I believe that's what that is there. And then we also have the pineal body, which is an endocrine gland directly below the third ventricle. And then I believe superiorly to the pineal body is where the hippocampus would be. And that is all related to your long-term memory. Okay. And here we also have the arbor vitae, which is made up of white matter. And you can see, I heard that the arbor vitae is called the tree of life because it does, in fact, all that white matter does make it look like a tree when it branches out like that. Very neat. And then we were asked to cut a portion of the cerebrum off. So I cut right in front of the corpus callosum right here. And you can see some white matter in there and some gray matter. I think I covered everything. And I hope that it's clear. Again, I apologize for the bad picture quality, but I think I got everything. So thank you very, very much.